My name is Michael Christopherson, and I started teaching one semester replacement in 1981 for my mentor, George Hagel, had a heart attack. And so I was running a machine shop at the time, but was able to work with my schedule and felt so helped the university out for a semester.
Yeah.
And then in 1987, I started full-time. I taught went to Washington University in St. Louis for graduate school and taught for 6 years at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
Very nice.
And thought I might need a break from teaching to move back to Wisconsin. And so I had an 8-year hiatus from teaching, which was very helpful. In many ways in terms of how I went about teaching and kind of different priorities.
Yeah.
When I returned, I felt as though I became a little more intrusive with students in terms of working more on their success.
Yeah.
And then I always felt when you're hired at the university, you have 4 job responsibilities: teaching, scholarship, advising, and service. And I felt it was important to all work each year on each one of those elements.
Yeah.
And so my goal in working in the service part of my job requirements was finding ways to bring positive recognition to UW. And so through many art projects, through the Percent for Art program and installation of works on campus, I found that to be a good match. And so that's how I became involved. There was another very important committee on campus, which was called the Campus Beautification Committee. And you seldom have the opportunity to be on a committee where you get to spend somebody else's money.
Yes.
And so there was the foundation director was a man by the name of Joe Dale. So I think if I recall correctly, this whole thing with Council Oak kind of started with my work with Joe Dale and the Campus Beautification Committee.
Yes.
Thankful for for everything that committee did in terms of establishing a permanent art collection for UW-Eau Claire.
You have a file in the university archives just about your work here on campus,
Okay.
and there's actually a manuscript from one of the committee meetings, and you're mentioned in it about a different art piece that they consulted you for, but then at the end it says, the Council Oak had recently fallen and we're looking to artists to create something out of it. So I think it's kind of ironic how you were mentioned in this article, not for the fact of the Council Oak, but for something else that you had been commissioned for. So that was something that I thought was really interesting.
Thank you.
But yeah, so you kind of covered it, but I saw in your file that often jewelry making and kind of art and design were your passions in the classes that you taught here at the university. Do you have any fond memories about your teaching years before you retired? I know that specifically in your file I saw, just as an outside perspective, your interest in the pursuit of helping students with art. I saw very often that you would accompany students on art competitions, or you would help further their interest in art outside of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire.
Well, that was another component with scholarship.
Yeah.
And I think as a professor, if you can set an example through your own work that art is tough sledding at many times. And so any way you can show the students that through your performances, they also can establish a career and participate in local, national exhibitions and stuff like that. So it was very important.
Yeah.
I think receiving the Max Schoenfeld teaching and student something award was probably the most satisfying recognition that I ever received at the university.
Yeah, and I've scanned the documents of your file. If you would like to ever look back at them, it's a great culmination of your work here at the university. And just looking through it, I could feel your passion for art, as well as the emotions that you emulated to your students through that. And that was something that I thought was really a great asset to the university at the time when you taught here. Yeah, of course.
Probably my greatest recognition was my final day of teaching. They always called me Plaid Mike at work. And, all the students showed up in the final with a plaid shirt on.
Oh. Did you primarily teach in Haas? Or the Fine Arts Building?
The Fine Arts Building.
Yeah. So.
I taught life drawing, 3D design, sculpture.
What we're here to talk about today is the Council Oak Bench. So in the early 2000s, you created the Council Oak Bench, which we, like I said, are gathered here today to talk about. So can you walk me through the history and your motivations and inspirations for creating the bench?
The history, it's been quite a few years ago, but as I recall it, the tree was hit by lightning. They decided that it had to come down. And the facilities had taken some initiative in terms of creating small slices of the council oak to hopefully make into plaques for recognition for things on campus. And the chemistry department became involved in that. And they were looking for storage space, and I had a large building, but I noticed they left some large logs that were at facilities management. And so I talked to them about the possibility of doing something with that. And it seemed to be the most, instead of carving some huge chunk of a log, we brought in a portable bandsaw to slice all the wood up into different slabs, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch slabs. And I had stored that for a few years and let everything simmer for a while. Plus you have to let the wood dry for a few years. And then I was curating an exhibition called Our Town, Eau Claire, for the Eau Claire Public Library, L.E. Phillips Public Library. And I thought something in connection with our town, I would build a bench and exhibit it in that summer show, and then bring it to the university for them to decide where they wanted to place it.
On Our Town, the exhibition that you curated for the library. And are you aware of where any of the other pieces ended up? I know that there was some about the Last Chance Bar, as well as a few other art pieces specifically about Eau Claire. Do you know where they ended up? I can't seem to find anything on them anymore.
Well, they were all returned to the artist.
Yeah.
And the people that furnished the pieces.
Yeah.
So I guess with the list of people that are in the show, contacting them, they'd be able to provide better information. But
yes.
It was an important show for me to do.
Yeah.
Being a local person who
Yeah.
had interest in Eau Claire and everything. So
Yeah.
it was very rewarding.
So the council, fell in 1987,
Yeah.
and for many on campus still today, the new council oak tree is really what we know. So can you maybe talk about how important the original council oak tree was to campus and its students? I know that a lot of students used to use its branches to sit under, or they were often like community picnics. So if you could detail any memories that you have of that, if you can.
Well, I'm sure you've probably been given information about how the Native Americans had met under that tree or in this location for their gatherings. But as a student, a place for students to come and visit, the one I remember the most is when the nursing students would hang their uniforms at the end of the year on graduation day and let them blow in the wind, and all those white uniforms was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Do you remember when it fell, or kind of the aftermath of it?
Well, that was my first year teaching here.
Oh wow.
When it came down, so not specifically, other than I knew that it was struck by lightning, and it was just everything was too precarious. But I thought it was important to get a photograph of the original council oak tree and use that on the surface of the bench.
Yeah.
So I had had that original photograph, and a company called Awards and More in Eau Claire were able to laser cut the original tree pre-1987 important element, so everybody knows what the original tree looked like.
Oh, okay. So is the council oak bench the only bench that you, or like the only piece that you created for the university out of the original slabs?
There was one board left that I created a piece for Joe Dale.
Yes.
Not. I got permission to use that one board, and it was a retirement gift in my appreciation for what he did for campus beautification. But other than that, that's the only project that I completed or participated in.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was other pieces made after that. The large building that I had, I took down and built a new studio. So whatever the small pieces that were left, I returned to facilities management. So I have no idea what might have happened to. But there wasn't very much. It was a very sparse amount that was left.
Especially following the lightning strike, most of the tree was dead. Following the fall in '87, so it was. I'm guessing it was very difficult to preserve a lot of the larger pieces of the tree because most of it, was already completely demolished from just 20 years prior.
Yep.
But so
It wasn't the first time that the tree had been hit by lightning. I think it had been hit by lightning more than once.
I wouldn't be surprised. So there's been a little bit of contention from what I've been finding. So just for a clarification, did you donate the bench to the university, or was it purchased from you by the university?
It was not purchased. I donated it.
Yeah. So with your donation, what were your hopes in kind of seeing where it would end up and what it would be used for in the university?
I didn't think it was my position to decide on a location.
Yeah.
So I presented it, and there were a few options that were talked about, and people made a good choice and placed it so you can look at the new council oak.
Yeah, and it's still there. I just went and checked on it. So hopefully, following this interview, I hope to create either a plaque to put right next to your bench, or a QR code so that people can read the essay that I'm hopefully writing on this with, of course, and the inclusion of tidbits of this interview to kind of know a little bit more about you, but also the bench, because if you don't know what it is, or if you're not looking for it, it could just look like a normal bench with today. And it's, I believe, since 2015 when it was first donated, it's stayed in relatively the same area or the same spot.
I've always felt that placement of anything I made, I want it to be something that you can walk by and not think about.
Yeah.
or every time you walk by, there's a reminder of some kind.
Yeah.
But I like a more subtle presentation of my own artwork, and I think the bench does that.
Yeah, of course. It's been lovely learning about it. Like I said, I was able to dive deeper into your career as just a professor due to your file that the university has on you, as well as just your motivations for creating something like this. I know that I think you were originally quoted in the early 2000s about how you wanted it to be a place for art students to have a place to sit and, chit chat as they do. But I think the placement of it is really poetic in a way. And, it's very intentional that it oversees the new Council Oak, which is much smaller than the original, but, it's only been planted for 31 years. So
Right.
Hopefully it will grow. And
They're slow-growing trees.
yes, and hopefully the university will keep their promise of the fact that it will stand for another 300 years, just like the original. So I wanted to ask, since your retirement, the university and campus has changed quite extensively, as you've noticed. So what was campus really like when you were here? What was the climate like, and what do you remember about it? What was campus really like when you were here? What was the climate like, and what do you remember about it?
Well, other than crossing the river for meetings, most of my time was spent, in the Haas Fine Arts Center. I never woke up in the morning and ever said I don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
I loved working there. I think the one thing the university provided was a nice place to go to work.
Yeah.
And the anticipation of working with students on a daily basis, I consider myself extremely fortunate. Like I said earlier, art can be tough sledding, and working with students, it was a dream come true.
Do you still make art in any form?
Yes. Retirement has offered opportunities.
Yes.
And so I make far less work. I don't participate in commercial galleries anymore. It was a conscious decision I made because I guess I wanted to live the rest of my life without so much calculation and strategy.
Yeah.
And so I can, if I feel like making a piece of furniture or a lamp or a sculpture or help somebody else out with a project in my shop, that's where I find my satisfaction. Still it's assisting with projects and their success is it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I can do.
Yeah. Do you still speak to any of your former colleagues from the university? I know you said it's a little difficult nowadays, but do you still remain in contact with anyone?
Yes, I have. I would consider them close friends. Not all. I mean, they're all friends, but I'm in much closer contact with a few, and it's always nice when previous students who say hi and have a little chat. It's hard to recognize after so many years, hard to recognize all of them. So it's always refreshing when they approach me and they remember me. When they approach me and they remember me. So yes, I am in contact with a few students, but
yeah, that's something that when I graduate in May, will always remember fondly is the relationships that I built, not only with a few select professors, but as well as, students that have become my very close friends. And I think that's something that Eau Claire really likes to pride themselves on, is the close-knit relationship in the community that a lot of people, students or professors alike, can create, a close-knit community.
Whenever there were orientation on campus, I always took the opportunity to tell parents and students that if they come to Eau Claire, I can pretty much guarantee that you will end up one or two of your professors at least that you can count on for future recommendations and friendship that will last far beyond graduation.
Yes.
So that's a very positive thing about Eau Claire. The size of the school might be helpful in that regard, but I think it's more the climate of the university.
Yes.
It's always focused, and that comes through their scholarship programs and their research days, and the availability of the faculty-student collaboration grants was extremely helpful.
Yes.
That is probably one of the best programs that any university can establish, and Eau Claire's done a very, very good job of that.
Yeah, and I think you said it very eloquently and perfectly. I do undergraduate research here with the outpouring support that we get from the university, whether that be, through grants or through special permissions, as well as just, a correspondence about how excited they are is always very exciting. And Eau Claire recently, in modern day, has become very much a hub for undergraduate research competitions. So we have something called Circa, and we're also hosting a large event in 2023, hopefully following, the upswing of COVID, to just show the excellence of undergraduate research. And I think Eau Claire is, a perfect spot for it, because that's something that we very heavily rely on for our students to kind of create good experience for after you graduate.
And there are small enough classes, so there's a lot of that interaction with faculty and students. So
yeah, I like it, and I'm a first generation college student, so I like it, and I'm a first generation college student, so coming in I had no idea about anything. I had no guidance really, and I'm so far from home. But I feel, Eau Claire has become a really comfortable and welcoming spot for a lot of students that are very similar to my background. But yeah, so with that, do you have anything else you would like us to know about you, whether that be your time here as a professor or what you are up to now?
I guess I don't have too much more.
That's all right.
You can edit that.
Yeah, you covered it very
I mean, I could go on and on and on about grandkids and all that kind of stuff. But that's everybody has, hopefully, or many people have that same joy in their life. So it's nothing unique.
Oh, well, it's very, very exciting. So I thank you for meeting with pleasure. Speaking for the entire university, you have left a lasting impression, not only through your bench, but as well as through your time and impressions that you gave to students, as well as the university as a professor.